Now in this exercise, let's play around with some timing basics. Once again, once you launch Krita, let's create a new image, and the size of the image is going to be the same. So we'll keep it 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. From here, we'll say create and get our new document. And also, if you don't already have it set up this way, make sure you can go up to Window, and your workspace is in the animation layout. We want to be able to see our workspace, our layers, toolbox at the top, and our timeline at the bottom. Now what we're going to do in this exercise is play around with the timing and the spacing of whatever object that we're working on. To make things simpler, rather than to draw it, we're going to place an image inside of this design. To place a picture, let's go up to Layer, down to Import, and let's choose Import Layer. From here, I've given you two different little mushrooms. Let's choose the green mushroom first. With it selected, we'll say Open, and you can see by default it puts it in the top left-hand corner. Now in order to move this around, the tool that we're going to use is going to be your Move tool, the cross arrows in the top, and make sure you've got that layer selected. So notice I've got the green mushroom layer already set up, and we can move it kind of down here towards the middle. Later on we'll save some space for the red mushroom. Next, let's go down to our animation timeline and go to the options for it on the far right hand side. Make sure your clip starts at 0 and ends at 100 frames, and we're going to do this at a 24 frames per second frame rate. Also, if you open up your options here by clicking on the down arrow, let's do auto duplicate for that. This way it will automatically create and copy our frames whenever we need a new one. What we want to do for this exercise is to move the little mushroom from one side to the other and then back. In doing this, we're going to play around with some of the spacing of each of the keyframes and the pace that it takes once we change things out. Here's what I mean for it. Let's start off by going to our animation timeline and create one blank keyframe. This will give us our first one on frame 0. This will be our starting point. So let's move over to frame number 2, or excuse me, frame number 1, the second frame, and let's simply move it over just a little bit. Now, of course, we want to see how much we're moving it, so let's turn on our little onion skin by clicking on the little light bulb, and you can see the amount that it's moved over. As I move it over, I want to pay attention to that amount. For now, let's move it across the screen to the right-hand side by clicking and dragging it until it's about halfway moved across. So about half the length of his head is where it should move to. We'll go to the next keyframe, so choose keyframe down here, and then finally move it over to this side. If you hold down the Shift key when you click and drag, it'll also move it in a nice straight line. But all I'm doing now is simply keeping it nice and consistent as I pull it across, choosing the next keyframe and then moving over, choosing the next keyframe and then moving over from here. It doesn't really matter how many frames this takes, but it should take about 12 keyframes total. So there's 10, 11, and let's do one more just for good measure, 12. Even if it runs off a bit, that's okay. Again, if we want to play this, we can choose Shift and then click on the beginning to highlight all of those. And then when we press play, you can see how it'll go across. So far, so good. So in this case, you can see how it's moving across at a nice consistent speed. Because each of these is consistently spaced out, it'll move at a consistent speed. If we want to move it faster, all we need to do is to move it farther as we move along. Here's what I mean by this. So if we moved it one head length, or excuse me, half of a head length for each frame, let's move it even farther going back. So if it takes 12 frames to move across this way, let's go to the next keyframe. We're going to move it backwards. I'm going to move it a full head length to the left. Notice now it moves all the way back this way. So again, choose the next keyframe and move it back until it's double the speed. Choose it and back, and then from here move and back to here too. In this case, because it's taking about twice the amount of space or twice the amount of movement that we're moving, it only takes about half the amount of frames. Notice I was able to go from frame number 13 to 18, but roughly 6 frames, and cover the same amount of space. Now check it out once we hit play. I've selected all of those and hit play, and you can see how it moves much, much quicker. So the key takeaway to this is if you want something to move slower, have them spaced closer together. Let's move it back to the right one more time. So choose the next frame. This time, moving slowly, I'm just going to barely move it over each time. It's going to take more frames, but it's going to move ever so slightly and ever so slowly each time as I move. Whoops. If you make a mistake, Command Z or Edit and Undo will undo it. Again, it doesn't really matter how many frames it takes. The main thing I'm wanting to show you is that we're moving consistently. Try to keep the same amount of space each time and choose a new frame as you're doing this. You can see how, because we're only moving it about 1/8 of the way across, it's going to take 8 times the amount of frames to get the same type of results. One more, maybe 2, and we'll call it a day for this one. All right, so now when I press play, and now it's super slow, fast, medium, and slow. You get the idea. So the faster that I want to move, the more I need to move it for each frame that we create. If I wanted to scrub over this to give you an idea, you can see how quickly it moves back. So this is good for consistent movement. But if we wanted this to look a little bit more natural, if I was to start off easing into it, starting off slow and then picking up speed as if it had some weight, this means I need to pay attention to how things are moving frame by frame. Let's do that with the red one. So with this done, let's go up to File and down to Save. And if you haven't done it already, this will be our timing basics. Again, Krita will be the file type that we've got. To place the red mushroom, again, we'll go to Layer, down to Import, and let's choose Import Layer. Find your red mushroom and say Open, and let's move it below this guy. Hey, to kind of get him out of the way so we're just seeing the red one, if you go over to your Layers panel, you can click on this little eyeball, and that turns off his visibility, making us see just the red mushroom. All right, so for this guy, we want it to seem like he's starting off slowly and then picking up speed and then ending slowly. Again, we're going to move him over to the left-hand side. On your animation timeline, let's make sure we've got a new keyframe, so clicking here. And also, let's turn on onion skinning so that we can see what's behind it. We're going to start off slow and then pick up speed. So for this first one, he'll stay there. Go to the next keyframe and move him just a little bit. Then the next keyframe, let's move it a little bit more. You can see the amount of change here is going greater. And then a little bit more. You can see how it's getting farther away and then farther away, until finally he's moving really quickly. Right there. To get him to slow down as we move forward, we won't move him so much, and then get him to slow down, and then we'll move him just a little bit, and then just a little bit, and then barely a bit from there, and then almost, and have him stop completely right there. That looks good. So it still took about 12 frames, about half a second to get over there, but now check out the movement. It's slowing down. Hey, if that's going a little bit too fast for you, let's slow down the speed of it. We'll pull this speed down to about 50%, and it'll play about half the speed as usual. Again, highlight the frames we want to play. So now you get an idea of it slowing down and easing out. Hey, in addition to changing the speed of this, we could also change the amount of time each frame is on playing on here. Let's set our speed back up to 100%. I want this entire animation, let's just go ahead and type it in here. There we go. I want this animation to play not for half of a second, for 12 frames. I want it to play for a full 24 frames. So one more time, I'm going to highlight all of my frames by holding Shift and clicking on it. Then I'm going to right-click on those frames, and let's insert some hold frames. We're going to insert multiple hold frames. In our case, we're just going to do one, but it's going to be one after each one of those. When we say OK, you can see now it spaces those out, and now it's lasting a little over 1 second. This gives it the same amount of animation, but just spacing it out even more. Let's hit play and see what this looks like. Oh, let's make sure they're all selected though. Now we can hit play, and it slows it down dramatically by still playing it at 100% speed. If we turn on our green mushroom, this will give you an idea of kind of how it looks side by side. So you can see if you want to have something have weight, have it start off going slower and then pick up speed and then slow down as if it's stopping its weight. Let's do the same thing and have it come back to the very beginning. Again, I'm going to turn off my green mushroom. It'll start off here. This time I'm going to skip 2 frames and put it right here to the next one. We'll move it ever so slightly back to the left. There it is. Skip 2 frames, move it again. Skip 2 frames, moving it a little bit more. It's starting to pick up speed, and I'm moving it much, much more each time. Now, if you do make a mistake like I did, at any time you can always click on your frames and you can drag them into position. So I want those to be spaced off and placed right there. Now we're back on track. Can select the next one, move it quickly, and then now let's get it to slow back down to its starting point. I do want to see exactly where I started it from, so let's choose our first frame, and I can see it's right there. I can go back to my last frame, move it ever so slightly, and I think it'll line up nicely. Now let's play it. You can see how it slowly goes in and out. That's a much more natural looking type animation. It's natural because it feels like it has weight, because it's slowing in and slowing out. It's easing in and slowly starting and slowly stopping, versus the green one, which simply moves at a constant rate, rather fast or slow. So when you do your animations, if you want them to feel more natural, add some easing in or slowing in and easing out and slowing out so that it feels like it has weight. With this done, let's go up to File and save what we're working on, and we can also close it out for the next one.